Okay, there was a time in my career of production TIG welding where I was really bored with doing the same thing over and over. Practicing on other stuff I was working on my own time, got really tired and started to lose motivation with that as well. This is something I've talked about a little bit on my channel before, but it actually had me in a really tough spot with welding for a little while. I was TIG welding in production for nearly 2 decades. There's times in this period where I got really bored of doing the same thing over and over. And to be honest, I even considered quitting and finding something else multiple times. So what we're gonna do here today is make sure this never happens to you, and you can continue learning in this trade for years to come. Something that's always gonna get you excited and inspired to learn is learning new joints. Challenging yourself to learn something you aren't familiar with is definitely a great way to make things a little more exciting for yourself. And actually, when you return to the stuff that you were doing before, I think you're gonna find out that you've actually gotten some new skills, even with the stuff you may have been doing for years. I'm talking about how to learn to weld coped pipe. This is a really fun one to learn. You can work on some mitered joints. That's definitely a really fun way to try something new. I've done that many times on my channel. For example, some of my favorite exercises to teach students is welding around a piece of pipe. You can do this in a couple different ways. You can practice it going around a circumference of a pipe like this. When you're doing this, try and get your start stops as perfect as possible. Try and maintain a consistent width to your pass. There's a ton of small intricacies that you can learn by practicing this. Then try welding around the radius of a pipe, kind of like doing a round fillet joint. Basically like doing a fillet weld around a curve. This is my favorite thing to start my students on after they've learned all the basic plate exercises. This is something that can be challenging for somebody for a long time. Once you've got it pretty good going around the pipe in one direction, you can try doing it in multiple directions like this example here. Trying out new things like this is gonna add a new degree of challenge for you, and it's gonna improve on skills that you've already learned. Now, another thing that I always recommend doing is learn to weld a new type of material. I practiced aluminum TIG welding for years. I actually didn't move on to learning stainless steel for like a few years. Nowadays, it's really easy to get practice material shipped to your door. So even if you're set up to practice at home like I am here, learning to weld a new material has never been easier. My friend Justin makes all different kinds of practice coupons you can have mailed to you. It's all types of different materials that you can practice and start learning. If you want to try out some of these new types of metal and you're unfamiliar with it, start out with learning some exercises on flat plate. I talk about this all the time on my channel. It's the best way to learn how to set up for a new type of material and understand how control works with a new type of metal that you're working with. I actually did an episode a little while ago where I explained how I really hadn't tried to TIG weld a lot of titanium before. An awesome company sent me a bunch of titanium practice coupons. With that stuff, I started out working on flat plate just to understand what I was doing. And then after I was comfortable, I started working on some actual joints. So even though I had not actually tried this before, it was a great way to get started. I had a blast. Now, after trying something new, once you start getting comfortable, you can then start challenging yourself to try more advanced joints. Do you see the theme here? I have found that the most enjoyment I've found with the trade and learning more about it is challenging myself. Going back to school was one of the most humbling things I ever did. I actually don't even think I started my apprenticeship till I was like 32 years old or something like that. After working full time for like over 10 years, it was hard to come back to a classroom. But this is where I did some of the most important learning I have ever done in my career. It led me to going to school and getting all my tickets, going back and getting extra tickets just because I wanted to, and eventually going in and getting certified as a welding supervisor. It opened up a ton of new opportunities for me. If you're bored, switch things up. Find a way to make things more challenging for yourself, a new type of material. Try to learn more challenging versions of the same things you already know how to do. And if you have other real passions in your life, think of ways that you can apply the things you learn here to that as well. For example, for years, I was obsessed with cinematography and filmmaking, as well as making music. So with these types of things, look what I did with my welding. Starting this YouTube channel is probably the biggest motivation I've ever had in my career. Combining the trade that I love so much, as well as the interests that I've followed for years. Doing all of this on my channel here, this has taken me down a path I never would have guessed I'd been on with my career. So get out there and weld. Challenge yourself in new ways. There is way too much fun to be had. Anytime that you are feeling bored and stuck, I guarantee this is going to be a great way you can make yourself more excited again. My name is Dusty. Feel and chill. We will talk soon. Peace.